Okay, you guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jenna Blacker,
And I'm Leonka Reina.
and this is the Hot Hustle Show. Today, we're going to talk about those awe moments. Aw, what a cute puppy. But mostly, we're going to talk about just using awe to get into the moment. And then we're going to expand those moments. From my research with awe and what it does with the brain, basically what it does is it helps like all those happy hormones, and it helps you kind of train your brain so that you're focused more on those happy moments with the dopamine and the serotonin. And so when you practice awing, and I can actually even send the articles to you guys so that you can do your own research around that. But basically, when you practice awing, it actually changes your whole nervous system, drops your vigilant system, and moves your brain more into those lower beta states where you're just in the learning mode instead of like these high beta states when you're like
Hyper,
like
right?
emergency,
Yeah.
emergency.
Yeah, fight or flight.
So that's a little of what we're going to talk about today. But first, I was thinking maybe we would share and tell them a little bit about what we did this weekend.
Yeah, so we had a really fun weekend. So there's a really big podcast company here that moved from California to the Austin area, and we joined them. It's called Dear Media. We joined them for they call it IRL, so in real life, and it was just a phenomenal event. It was, they had lots of different people speaking, other podcasters that, have really big morning shows. We were really excited to be there. They had, it was one of those like really fun pop culture meets, wellness and health. And I really think they have a hole in their market for some mystic magic, right? So maybe we can help this community can help really broaden the horizons for what's possible as far as bringing something like that to maybe Dear Media, or even just expanding out here so we can all get free, right? So if you continue to help us share the message of what you find valuable, if you do, right, like what you might find valuable in morning messages like this, right? So there's really not a place where you can come and kind of have that morning connection. I mean, there's tons of different ways that you can connect in the morning, but we're really talking about true connection to the grid and the true connection to your higher source. And so some of these concepts might be a little bit far off for these people, but it was fun. I think they were ready, right? They had a lot of health and wellness. What else what were your takeaways?
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same thing. One of the coolest thing was this was the first coolest thing, but we were in line and we were right behind somebody, they just looked like regular little girls, right?
Yeah.
And they were so kind of humble. We were like, so do you own businesses?
No, first we asked them like, what'd y'all do last night? Did you go to 6th Street? She's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I went to 6th Street. And I was like, oh, well, maybe you should probably try a different party area. Sometimes they call it Dirty Six because it's like a lot of college people. She was like, yeah, I felt like it was a little out of my, realm, but they're pretty young. So
yeah. They were probably just around 30. And one of the girls had this product and she handed it to me and it looked like just a little scrunchie. I want to know in the chat if you've heard of this, because I think we have outgrown this idea. It's called a nightcap. And I didn't, like, she was talking about it, I didn't really understand it. And then she like pulled one out of a bag and gave it to me, and I still didn't really understand it. It was like, why did you just hand me a little baggie with cool marketing and it said Scrunchie? And then I looked at the packaging and they were on Shark Tank. And I thought, why would this Scrunchie be on Shark Tank? But didn't really question it and went on with our day. Yesterday night, I got back and found out basically my daughter, who's 18 now, she was like, oh, great, you got one of these. They're all over TikTok and social media. And basically what it is it's a little, women's scrunchie, and it has like a little compartment or a pocket where it has like a little top to a cup. And you put it over your drink while you're out and put a straw in your drink instead of wouldn't work so well with a beer. But you put a straw over your, in your drink instead of drinking it out of the cup.
It's
And
basically
so that you don't get a date rape drug or get
somebody
roofied.
doesn't spike you your drink, right? Like
Yeah.
you've got like a little cup holder, like a
I
little
just-
lid, right?
Yeah. Did you know that at the time?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I had seen that before.
I guess I was just oblivious that, people are, I guess I just thought you just watch your drinks. I don't know
Well,
what you do these days.
Well, in Austin, yeah, that's been a problem with like some people have gone missing and stumbled off drunk and stuff, and some people are speculating that they're getting, might be getting their drinks. I don't want to put a rumor out for Austin, but they might be getting date rape drugs. So, so she said that she sold a lot to different universities, and I mean, again, it's just so interesting how you can meet creators everywhere. And God, good for her for being able to take her product all the way to Shark Tank, and that's pretty brave, right?
And mostly, I think when my daughter, more or less was like, thought that it was just the coolest thing in the world, she's like, oh, cool. Talk about a moment. Because as a mom, I was thinking, well, cool. I just did something really good for my daughter's future. She's going to get this little scrunchie and probably many more. But it sort of just made me incredibly happy. We actually did at the end of the event get to talk to the founders. I think that was my main highlight. Asked them a few questions about the show and how to move it from live to, putting on some of the great episodes on a podcast. I don't feel like I got some specific details around that, but I think as we migrate, and we're not migrating, the live show is always going to be live.
Yeah.
In fact, I think as we get our new speaker series, there might be even 3 lives a week, which would be really fun.
Yeah. And also I asked the question, really coming, like we are, I said the word woo. I said, we're pretty woo. I mean, we definitely go there. And I said, how do you feel that would be, how do you think that will transition to the audience, right? And to, newer audiences or whatnot. And I said, because it's one of the fastest spirituality as a topic, not necessarily, not religion. We're talking about like, chakra candles, that kind of thing, tarot cards. I said, it's one of the fastest growing industries. And so I also feel like a lot of people are just looking outside of the traditional norms for just more information. And Lauren stopped and she looked at me and she said, that's so niche. She said, we really love niche. And I think her wheels were turning because the way she looked was like, she was already out there with a vision. And I thought, cool, man.
I wish I could have videotaped that whole conversation because it was just like the way that they think is very different than I think a lot of people in this world too. Yeah.
Which is how I think that they continue to be one of a really great, communicator and creator. Just to give you a little backstory, I think they started, she started the podcast, podcast in 2017.
But she already had an audience through her blogging.
Right. So that was in 2009. But 2017 to now, they're, a multi-million-dollar company.
8 to 10 million.
15, actually, I saw.
15.
And then that does not even including the revenue. But the point being is that, just being able to just step outside of like what's immediate and to be in that expanded creator, kind of say, what's the word? 11. What's the word of, the energy of creators, right? So felt really cool to kind of expand in that way too. And it really had me thinking about, okay, how am I limiting my vision?
Yeah.
And how am I limiting myself? Little things like, you think that they're going to be stopped by a hang up on social media? No, hell no. Because that used to be that is kind of my thing. I'm really private. So
I was telling Lianco, but I think this is where she's going with this conversation. It might not be, but this morning I, fell asleep to one of Joe Dispenza's meditations. And it was just one of those where he told a story at the beginning where he's like, I had a problem and, it was a big enough problem that my brain would basically obsess about it. And I had a Christmas break coming up for 2 weeks and I thought, I'm not going there. I'm not getting my energy back into this. I'm going to, keep my energy in the present moment and, work on just leaving this. And he had kind of a grand moment about a week and a half into this vacation where he got a phone call and the problem was resolved. Doesn't really matter what the problem was, right? It was big enough.
I think the biggest thing is that he had the problem, but he was able to have the problem
and
then
not
he said
obsess about it.
he didn't think about it for 2 weeks. It wasn't even not obsessed about it. He said he didn't think about it for 2
Yeah.
weeks. I was
Like
thinking,
not even one thought. And in that moment, then before I went into the meditation, I was like, oh, and I actually had like a gasping awe moment. I don't know if it was awe, right? But it was like this, oh, wow, like that's actually possible. Like we have enough control over our energetic systems that when something trips us up and causes us this angst or this pull, then we actually have the capacity to literally not go there.
oh, this is good.
And I was, and I think, I've heard this story a few other times, and I had actually even heard it a different way. And I thought, and this is the first time I actually like received it, that, and then he kept on talking. It's like every time that you go back, and in my world, we call that a reference point, but every time I got too excited. I'm sorry, that might be.
I love it. Love
It would
it.
be better to you.
I love it. Go ahead.
But every single time we go back to one of those reference points, basically you just went back to the past and kind of messed up the creative frequency of being out the box.
Basically, when it dug up your seeds, you're like,
right.
oh,
yeah. So I mean, it just like got me so freaking excited.
And I'm plowing my seeds all the time. I'm just thinking like I pick my shit up all the time.
Well, and when I think about my leg and when, I kick something and then I go out, I mean, I'm in such a habit of that now. And I'm like, well, if I go in the field and get outside my box and energetically work on the frequencies to create the change around this, and then I wake up and kick something and I'm like, ow, I've just like gotten back all of my past reference points. And now what, right? And it just really got me into this like place and space that made me think, I'm creating my past all over again because I keep going back, I keep obsessing, I keep going into the crabby pants around things.
Yeah.
Or even a frequency of frustration
or
right? Worry, frustration, the rage and things that you might have for others. Before this, he had talked about how like a problem with others is not a problem if you are actually not resistant and reactive around it. Like it's like the simplest way to say it. And he had to explain it like 3 or 4 times for people to get that. He'd be like, you're still with me, right? Go tell your neighbor what I just said.
That would be good
like such an all moment, for me, talking all moments, I was like, oh, it was more an oh moment, but but I think I mean, if we look at moments in our life and what our brain's doing, I mean, right now you could be sitting there thinking, well, this is an interesting conversation, but you know what? I think I'm going to check my email at the same time I'm listening. I mean, you could be, thinking about what you're going to make for lunch. You could think about what plans you've got and other things like that. And I'm inviting you to maybe just give yourself the grace, as Leonka puts it, to actually be so present with your day and see how those moments through your day may become different than your yesterday, especially those of you that keep feeling like you're groundhog daying your life, which there are areas of my life that I'm groundhogging. There's areas of my life that are kind of ritualistic though, that I actually do like too. So, you know, I think it's really important, and
But
I'm gonna
that's
play
more
with that
intention,
this
though.
week.
But the difference between when the parts that you kind of have the ritual, right, is that you're doing that with intention, so that those parts of your day keep showing up because those are the, you know, the things and actions and the outcomes you like that.
Yeah.
The problem is that for me, like when I would the groundhog, but even before I worked, you know, this work, and as most recently as the last position I literally felt like I was in the same position that I was at the other company. I mean, all I did was just change company name. And I thought, oh my God, this is craziness. It's like, I mean, I knew that the universe had something else for me, and I just was not wanting to take that leap of faith. Like I was resisting. I kept wanting to keep all my beliefs. And so of course I would, and the biggest thing here was unconsciously, like I had no intention about my day because it wasn't working with source at all.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it just kept being more strife and worry, and so of course I'm gonna get and didn't feel good at the end of the day. Like I even told you that if I had stayed there, I knew I was gonna get sick. Like felt like I was gonna manifest a disease. Not that I'm trying to bring that upon myself, but you know,
I'm dying to get out of this.
I'm a modern woman, and I've listened to Oprah, and she says, no, I'm just kidding. That, you know, if I don't listen, then I'm gonna get that proverbial 2x4 over my head, and that could come in the form of like getting sick and stuff like that.
And maybe long term too.
Oh, scare me. No. I get to be with you today.
I'm get better than that.
Yeah.
Well, so in the email, I hope you had a chance to look at the video. I sent a throwback with from the event that I did with Dane. And this was totally by accident, but I thought, oh my gosh, this goes so well with moments and really looking at moments of your life. I was looking for footage. Somebody's asked me to get about 5 minutes of footage around my life. So I was looking for different, you know, footage that would work. And I stumbled on that footage that I did with Dane.
Dr. Dane here.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, it's
sorry.
Dr. Dane here with Access Consciousness. Pretty popular, trendy dude, but he's got like kind of fun way of looking at things and processing. So,
and what I really want you to look at with that video is look at how serious I am. And look at how he's just being there in the moment.
Oh, interesting.
And, you know, because I had this agenda, as I often do in my head, where I was just wanted to do something playful as always. And I wanted to get the group together and have them phenomena, and I would do one side and then the other. And, you know, he's kind of like, okay, well, fine, we'll play along. And, but he's actually, really like playful.
He is playful.
And he does this little butt slapping thing because earlier in the day I made this joke on how I kept spanking myself around food. And for whatever reason back then, that all stopped. Like I had, you know, he really changed me around that. And I've even forgot how grateful I am that I'm no longer obsessed with food all the time. But that was one of the big changes. And I was just sharing that right at the beginning of that event. So he does this little butt spanking thing. It's kind of, you don't know that until later in the event, which I didn't share with you guys. But yeah, the event is, it was just really interesting for me to look back, and I'm like, I don't even want to share this footage because, you know, it shows how contracted I was back in the day. You know, and how it had to perform, and it was almost like I had to please people. And I think I still have some of that in me. It's just a lot less than ever before. And I just thought it was just such an aha moment. Maybe we should be talking about aha moments instead of
just awe.
Interesting. I mean, because you've got to think each of these moments are bringing us to greater awareness when we actually acknowledge the frequencies and the rhythms and, you know, the energetics even underneath what created it in the first place.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, and how even Dr. Dayton here says those moments are what they call a beyond. So I didn't know what that word really meant, but I do understand that he equated it to like if you are really struggling with money and you get a a bill in the mail and you open it and you're like, oh, that locks energetically in your being. And what if we could just be a little bit more outside of that realm, right? And know that when we create, what we're experiencing now is the version that we have created from before. Like I'm a version, what you're looking at right now is what I created in my past.
Mhm.
And so that should be inspiring for you, because if I can change how I receive that, right? If I can get beyond my beyonds, and when I get that check, if I can just be and know that I've worked in the field and I've got this magical passion or ability to create and not have that be a problem, then I've transmuted that energy. So I almost kind of see it like as a guitar strum. And when you get all, that thing goes like this, right?
Mhm.
And so if I could just, when I open up that letter and I don't have that creating that me in the future, then now I can show up tomorrow as a different Lee, like as a different me. And all of us can. And that's super empowering.
Right.
But it takes a second maybe to kind of just get in there sometimes.
Totally.
For me. So it has. But I'm working on it, y'all.
I think we're both working on it. I think y'all are probably working on this too.
We'll keep each other accountable, right?
Yeah. What are some of the comments on the feed?
Sure. So reactivating the thing that we don't want and worrying about. So yes, Anita could relate to, again, reactivating ourselves. I'm like, oh, like, why do we keep tripping up?
And what's the value of doing that? Like, is it just so that you know that you still have a problem? Like, let's look at this energetically from from that space of energetic.
I don't know. So I can be, so if
Oops.
if I get upset about the bill, then I'm like, see, that still happens. And I'm like, oh, like, and my little,
Even though I'm
like,
practicing having wealth, I'm still not having wealth.
like meditation, but
Doesn't
not
work.
Yeah, again, it just reiterates what the ego wants to tell us, the lie that it doesn't, that this work doesn't work.
Well, what's the value of like making this work
Well, so that
fraudulent?
So I don't have to be all cool and powerful Lee. So I don't have to be, all of my potency. Because if I didn't have those problems, if I didn't have those, misconceptions, if I could step outside fully, then I would be me. I would be, more expansive and not have this like, angst or worry. Then I'd be like free to just completely create. And if I am free to create, well, shit, that means I have to show up as something else. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Right.
What do you guys think is the value of it? What's the value of you keep hitting the reference points that's like, see, it still sucks, right? What's the value?
It keeps me protected sometimes, rather than having to show up and show out, right? Like rather than being all the potency.
It keeps you from being present with it too.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes, it's nice to not be honest with things, right? It's like the difference is, this isn't, I think one of the things I really hate is the spiritual bypass, where people are like, I'm like, how are you doing? And they're like, everything's great. and inside, and even energetically, when you speak with them, you can tell that that's not the case. I think that I don't want this to sound like spiritual bypass. I really want this to be frequency change. Does that make sense to you guys, or should I say that another way?
Try it again, but
like it seems like it needs so.
Well, I promise
there's a gift, right? There's a gift in anything that you might call negative. I don't love using that word, and I try to never use the words negative or positive, because I think that every time something like hits you and you conclude that it's negative, then you just keep spiraling down energetically, right? Whereas if something would happen, I'm watching this like case about these parents that adopted a Chinese child, and the child, they left the daughter at home, or so it says, and that she was just studying, and she was taken, and she wasn't raped or anything. She was taken and then suffocated and put out in the woods, right?
Oh.
I know it's like heartbreaking. And it makes me, wonder, like, these are good parents. They loved her. Like, how could this happen? I haven't watched the end of the movie yet, so I actually don't know. And neither does it matter, because it makes me, really look at, I can see how that would seem like this awful worst case scenario, right? But the gift, there is gifts in this. And maybe the gift is that they get to tell the story, and the rest of the people who watch this on Netflix actually get awareness on how the legal system works. Like, they arrested the mom, like, at the funeral.
Oh.
I mean, it's heartbreaking.
Mhm. So they were able, so the gift could be, we don't know what it is for them, like that's their gift to give, but
Sure.
could be that they are now able to kind of expose some of the legal system, right?
Yeah.
And thus, have, me as a parent to have more protections
Protection in
and
different ways, awareness in
Yeah.
different ways.
And also, like, how do we watch over our kids, right? Like, for me, I'm thinking,
agreed. Like, why did you leave a 13-year-old alone studying anyway? I mean, I know that they were like, no, she would
see,
never have left.
13 seems old to me. Like,
I
I
know,
was by
they're
myself at
mature.
13. Yeah.
They're a little mature. I never did. In fact, my daughter's 18. I don't even like her going out to the park by 8:30.
Oh man, I was a latchkey kid. Oh, we digress. So what are some things that are coming up for you around this? And I know I feel like we keep coming back to this theme, but possibly because, oh, well, I'm not gonna say possibly, it's because people are asking for this energetically, and consciousness knows,
Yeah.
what we need to be and where we need to be and what needs to be shared.
Yeah.
This is definitely a time for purge. Definitely a time where shit's coming up for all of us. Shit that we thought that, I mean, and even in our minds, even in dreams, that if you want to take it a little bit further, for us too. Like, and you're like, why did that even come in my head? And I don't want to get vulnerable, but there was an incident that I thought I had forgiven, and it just, those people popped in my head, and I thought, damn it, really? And then when I was reading about kind of where we are cosmically and in this time, because of ascension, these are the things that are coming up so that we can actually feel those feelings and then decide to, if we want to, like I said, mute that cord, right? Because maybe I really do have it strong somewhere, right? Like maybe I am still playing that. And I really just sat there, and I sent so much love and so much gratitude for, the awareness around that. The biggest thing was that, I changed a lot of things in my life after that. I got a lot of awareness after that. It was, there was gifts there, and I just was like, and I prayed for them. Like, I was like, I'm gonna pray for your happiness, because I'm not gonna hold myself in this lock with you, and let's all be free. And so that really gave me a lot of freedom there. Yeah, it was I'll just say it. So there was a little bit of I guess you could say it was a sexual assault, but it was one of those times I was younger and whatnot, and I felt like I was blaming myself, because I was like, oh, I was in a bad place. So like,
Yeah. But sometimes that is how, I mean, I feel that I had a car accident in 95 that like broke my car in half. It was a bad one. And I feel like I was in such a bad place and doing things that were kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if I share it with you.
Yeah.
But it was almost like I needed to be stopped. And that car accident stopped me at that time. And it took me on a totally different timeline and trajectory. And
Wow.
yeah, so
that's a gift.
I know.
Damn,
There's a gift in every single one of these things. in a real way. And, and I am grateful that I didn't do like damage for my life.
Yeah.
And people who have, I really, really can understand, and I'm so sorry, right? Because I was in that place where I had such a horrific, accident, and I mean, it could have ruined my entire life, and I just got really, really lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I changed a lot of, like I said, behaviors after that. Like,
Yeah, me too. I was like, this is a wake-up call. I'm
Yeah.
alive.
yeah,
I felt that a little bit after I had my appendix. I just wasn't paying attention to my body enough. My appendix ruptured, and I mean, they saved my life. I had doctors, saving my life that the morning I came into the hospital for my appendicitis. And I thought I just had a bladder infection, to be honest. I mean, it was the throwing up in the morning that I wasn't so sure about the bladder infection.
Oh.
Oops.
Joe says, I find anything that activates polarity causes issues. At least for me. These are the gifts and the chaos. That's that's
like
beautifully
how
said. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And then Anita says, if I expect the possible disappointment, I won't be let down. Oh, that's that protection. Like, what are we doing to keep that in place? Girl, I feel like me and you are on a connection, Anita. Sometimes you put comments and I'm like, yes, I've been there. Like I always did that. I'm like, always.
Ooh, which makes
don't want to let myself down.
And maybe we talk more about this on Thursday, but I worked on this area of my life where I was, have you ever like wanted to really dream and vision about something, but then you don't think it's possible, so you don't actually go there and dream.
Man,
Yeah.
shitty.
I know, but man, I was so in that. Like, it was just like, it's not gonna work out, so I'm not even gonna dream.
I'm not gonna even,
first
oh my
place.
God, that's so sad.
I know. And I'm the one that's like into change and manifesting. And by then I was already being called the change agent.
Oh gosh.
Which was even worse when
yeah, and you teach visioneering.
I know.
Gosh, you would do it. God.
I know.
Oh, thank you for sharing that though.
Yeah, but
That's
that
so
was
vulnerable.
the time that it changed. And I worked with somebody that helped me around that, really changed that. And there are real steps around it. It started with journaling for me.
Okay. And then what else?
And then it was just, whenever you go into dreaming and you realize that you're doubting your dreams, destroying and
we're not taking dreams at night. We're talking about vision.
Visions, yeah.
Okay.
Visioneering your life. Like,
okay. So like, let me get you to get a little in here. So you started with journaling.
Right, because I was like, so when I probably even have these journals here somewhere. Maybe I'll look them up for Thursday. So first was just being like, here's what I hear in my head.
Okay.
First thing I did was clear entities at the time, as I recall. And that was the first step forward, because then I got,
wait, how do we clear entities? Yes.
Would you like to do that?
Yeah, let's do that right now.
So, how many of you feel that there is more than one entity in your body right now? I want you to go ahead and give that a number. How many do you think that you have that are hanging around?
Here.
Yeah,
if you feel a number coming up, give it.
Yeah. Whatever it is. All right.
9.
Holy shit, you've got 9?
I don't know, that's the number that came out. Who the hell is gonna judge me? Get off, yo. Get off.
Bad entity. Okay. So all those entities, go ahead and bring them up.
Okay. The number 3 pops in. Yep, that's your number. So that's how many. Yeah, it will tell you.
All the entities that aren't you. Who are you? Who were you before that? Who were you before that? Who were you before that? What's your job here with me? What was your job here before that? What was your job here before that? What will your job be in the future? Take all your magnetic blueprinting and leave my body now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And take a breath.
So you understand that she's talking directly to the entities. Okay. Let's do that.
Now, do you have more space or less space in your body?
I have more space.
So we're gonna do another round, maybe 2, depending on how the frequency lies after this. Okay, so now, and you can even start with your name. I can go, okay, Jenna, how many entities do you currently have in your body?
Okay, how many?
Bring up that number. Okay, now we're gonna talk to that entity. Talk to those, if there's more than one. Okay, who are you? Who were you before that? Who were you before that? Who will you be in the future? What's your job here with me? What was your job here before that? What was your job here before that? What will your job be in the future? Take all your magnetic blueprinting and leave this body now. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Take a breath. I feel like the line is getting clear.
Yeah.
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 You guys feel a little more present now?
Well, dang, we had all that going on.
Yeah. Dude, you guys, we have a massive audience. Everyone comes with their multiple occupancy hotels. They're just disembodied beings. How about that?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh yeah.
If you guys have any questions about this, just send them over.
Yeah, we can send out some more information. We'll put on the social about what entities are, and then we'll get that clearing back out there for you.
Yeah.
So check out our socials. It's mine is leonka.reina, and Jenna's is Hey Jenna. Yes, on Instagram, and mine's on Facebook.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty well at putting out social more. So we're trying to really keep up with the movement of those 30 years old.
An entourage inside of us. And Diane says, you're hysterical. I just released a few for sure. And you can always find us on houtemedia.com. So, and our Instagrams and whatnot, they're there. But we like to kind of, add more to the story here than we can, on live.
All right, so
I mean, damn everybody, all those partiers. Go ahead.
Well, and I mean, the whole purpose of doing this was to get you closer to who you are and your message and what you're thinking and what you're dreaming about and your visions, right? So that was the first step. Like before I would journal, I would just like clear entities.
Okay.
I think I've cleared them enough that I kind of only will have occasionally one.
Shit, I didn't know I had like a party going on. I feel like, I was like, y'all can go. We're good. I don't mind can be alone. We're good.
So part of the reasons that bodies and beings bring in entities is really because they feel like they need help. And oftentimes these guys will just come in to help you in your teenage years or something where you feel like you don't fit in, and you'd kind of like to go away and daydream during school. And so they just kind of hang around. So if you don't clear them, then they just kind of stick with you until because they don't understand that they might actually have a better purpose somewhere else. So they just are like, hey.
Especially if you're
invited me in.
And sometimes if you're a really bright light, that's super attractive for an entity. And
they like drugs and alcohol, and they love people who eat a lot. I mean, oh my gosh, it's like literally there's like entities in carbs or something. But so if you are like constantly craving sugar, that's probably an entity. I think that's also one of the shifts that I've had over the last 11 or 12 years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It says, I think I take these guys out to a party and I sneak out, and I'll sneak out, right? That's too funny.
Maybe you just didn't want to be alone.
It's funny because that kept coming up in my head. It was like, oh, now I'm alone. And that's why I said it out loud. I was like, nope, y'all go ahead, because I am not alone. I'm good. Like, I can be in my own self, and I can really embody my own body now. I don't know how I got on, whatever. I guess it's probably been a long time since I actually physically did the entity clearance. So it's probably a lot of old bullshit from, beating myself up about jobs and stuff like that.
So that's one of the first things before you if you've got something going on where you're trying to block yourself, or you've got fraud control systems going up and saying, no, this isn't working for me. And it may not be working for you because you're literally, blocking it from working because you've got this doubt. These fraud systems may or may not be an entity. It may just be a neural network pathway that you need to start creating a new pathway for. So, the journaling got me really clear on, like, I could vision a little bit, right? Like the things that my limited mind would think were possible, I could dream about.
Of course.
That was one of the first steps that I noticed.
Okay.
But to get further out from that, it was almost like, I won't go there. It's a waste of time, was one of the things I remember writing in my journal.
Oh my gosh.
Yep,
So you
right.
wrote in your journal about how you were actually reacting to that experience too, right?
Yeah, because I wanted to know, like, if I write this out, can I really see what's really going on with why I won't let the sky is the limit thing.
Will you please, on the line, will you let us know, like, I mean, pull out your pen and pad, right? I mean, you can journal with typewriting, but like, I always a big believer of like having that scratch. And even if you can't really reread it, there's something super powerful about like having that. So like, it's like a channel moment, like your higher self is talking to you and it comes through on paper. So will you just make I'm just telling you, just do it, just try it.
Well, I'm just kind of curious. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
These are live calls and it's small enough that we can contribute and help when you have questions and things come up and you want to,
I just want to see if people will do it, right? And see what comes through for you. You don't even have to share. I think it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, I agree. So that was kind of my big awareness to get closer to having bigger dreams.
And so those are the two biggest.
That was
two
the
biggest
start.
things. Yeah.
And I probably journaled on a regular basis, not wanting to know about that for almost maybe 3 months. And then I would try to look outside the box, right? Like I know for whatever reason, I've always been called to talk and especially about consciousness. And I've tried to do things like totally different. Is it really about interviewing? Is it really about, helping people with personal development, hypnosis, consciousness, wherever it went, right? When I really got to the place and spaces where I was like, I'm going to try something totally different. And I tried to, run a product-based business off of Amazon. And, I had to go down there to explore other things.
I understand what you're saying. But you came back to this.
Well, yay. And now this does come with a future, we actually have already made prototype product.
Yay.
Yeah.
That was well received too. That we looked so cute and I thought,
So there will be some, I kind of have this streetwear look, and we've made a few little products, and they'll eventually be
I'm
for
the
sale.
blingy chick. As you can tell, like I got my magnets on that are bling. Like, oh well. But it's fun. So you can also find those on our site soon.
They're not there yet.
Soon.
We'll probably launch them. We have a launch around a certain line of something someday.
That's fun.
But I just mostly it's just lights my heart, right? It's the frequency of like really playing and being alive with this work. And I don't know how much that you guys practice this work when you're not like just joining us to listen, but I mean, the art is in the practice.
Yeah.
And we get off these calls and I just keep going. And I would just invite you to really take this deeper in your world. Just thought alone, right, will take it deeper. And I just really think it's an awesome.
I thought about you when you said the practice, because I remember when you said damn it, sometimes I wasn't doing that. Like sometimes I also call that like the coach's curse. Because sometimes you get too big for your britches. Where you're like, oh, I know that information. So you don't do the practice. And I was just today, I was like trying to avoid meditation. And I'm like, shit, Janet, you're in my head. That you say it's in the practice and that it really freaking is. Like, how are you going to create that space? And how was I going to let the angels come and talk to me if I'm not letting them get a word in edgewise? And I'm like, shit, I'm not even listening to my own BS over here, right? It's not BS, but I'm being kind of cute with it. But if I'm not willing to sit there and do the work, then I shouldn't be complaining. Right? Like I know I'm not giving myself that love enough to even sit down and meditate. And I thought that's so silly. So I sat down and meditated. And it was actually beautiful. It was a wonderful meditation. It was so silly.
It's
Like
funny. So, I mean, I do it at night and I do it in the morning. And, been a thought in my head lately that I think I might transition to reading at night and then just, literally falling asleep and with breathing or meditating. But so far, I really like falling asleep to either hypnosis or, sometimes I'll complete them and then I'll be like all zenned out and I'll be like, all right, I'm just taking out my headphones now. And I have these things that I wear at night. They're called quiet ons. My husband snores. So we were looking for, I like these headphones because they have the noise canceling. So we were looking for like noise canceling headphones that weren't like connected to Wi-Fi basically.
yeah.
So that I would have something to so I wouldn't like wake up with him snoring. And we got these little tiny devices. They're like earplugs. They're called quiet ons.
Nice.
So after my meditation, I'd be kind of like, all right. And then I take out my headphones. Sometimes they're like these big ones. And then I'll just put in my quiet ons and I will just like sleep. And sometimes I'll have these really cool dreams in the field and I'll be dragons. And sometimes there won't be, but
man, I was saying about
this whole
God.
ritual around sleep.
But see, I'm glad that you share those things here on the show because I can hear you in my head sometimes too. And I'm like,
well, I hear Grace. I bet you guys do too. You have to give yourself grace.
Give yourself grace.
Like, and it works because then when you start getting hard on yourself, like, usually it's when I've made a mistake and it's actually affected the business or worse, a customer, right? I really give myself a hard time on that. And, lately I've been giving myself grace, but the grace requires a change with it.
Good. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. They
Right.
said, yeah, that's really cool that you take it a step further.
Yeah. I'm like, no, this is not happening again. And unless it does. But then it was usually a different way that it happened.
Sure, but you were taking it vigilance and saying, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do in order to not have that happen again.
Right.
If it was by accident, then obviously the grace would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing I hear you say in my head too is I always fall asleep with a hypnosis, and I was thinking, dang it. And so sometimes I'm
listen
lazy.
to myself.
And that's actually super powerful. Super powerful.
Right. And I hate listening to myself too. But the hypnosis, they don't have any likes, those are the things that drive me insane. I'm like, come on, Jenna, just speak your words. Talk about giving yourself grace.
Well, and yeah, thank you. So I was sitting there going like, oh, I was like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. The other thing was in my head.
Oh no, that's the worst one.
I know, right? So I was like, that's it. So I was like, let me just pull out like my so I made it to where I had like a cool little like watch list, and all I have to do is I don't have to pull them up. I just click on my nighttime one, and then that way I just already know what I'm going to put on. So instead of I'm trying to be lazy, I just put on my headphones and I can, actually get some change. Let my brain do the work at night. Shit, I don't have to do everything. But it is about putting those things, like what can we all do today to put in practice and make it easier for us to do these little tools. They're not little, they are, groundbreaking, like change, mechanisms, but do I do them all? No, because sometimes I want to be lazy and I don't want to get my phone and I don't want to look for
Well, and
YouTube.
that's okay. I mean, it doesn't have to happen.
Right.
But
But if I really want those things, like what can I do right here in my waking hours to make that easy for myself? And I'm just putting this invitation out to the group here too. Is, maybe it's, if I'm telling you or asking you about journaling, maybe it's putting a notepad and a pen out, like in a couple of different places in the house, that if you get ideas, you can just jot them down instead of having to drop everything and go
yeah.
and implement some of this stuff, right?
I used to do this course called Quest, and it, I have a little timer cube that I'd give everyone 5 minutes, and I would give them a prompt, and I'd say, okay, write on this prompt. And it would be things like, what do you hate about the current situation, right? And what do you love, what about the current situation? And they write 5 minutes on one, 5 minutes on the other. And then
That's powerful.
it is. I mean, and because sometimes we don't acknowledge what we don't like. I've really been looking at the business, and there's certain things within the business that I'm like, oh, I love doing these things. I mean, I love creating the brands and I like doing the graphic stuff, a lot of it. And I do like speaking on a mic clearly. But there's the other little grimy things that I don't like doing as much, like outreach, which
She's like, Leon, go, you get, and I don't mind. I love that stuff, right? Like that's my superpower.
Yeah.
So
I like
funny.
creating the funnels, but I don't like doing things over and over and over again. It's sort of like, ask me to go get gas once. I'd be okay with doing it once, but I don't want to do things over and over and over again. So.
Well, cool. I think, we left you with a lot of information today. Definitely want to get you that energy clearing and some more information around that too.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we ever talk about on the show that we seem to like go so like fast or we don't fully explain, just reach out to us and we're happy to share this information. And sometimes we don't know that, it's not being, fully explained or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
or we just get excited. So sometimes we knock over our mics.
Well, and we, sorry, Mikey. I mean, in general, I mean, we're in a different spot possibly than some of you, and possibly some of you are beyond us. So, I mean, everyone's in their own personal journey. So I really want to.
When I met Janet, I was well not on this journey, and she was well there, and she would tell me things that I'd be like, I mean, my eyes would just be like, is she for real? Like, what does that even mean? So fun times.
Yeah, and if you ideas for next week, I'm kind of thinking that we might want to continue this conversation about moments in time and maybe play with vision.
Ooh.
Expanding your vision or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've got ideas on different talk shows, if you want me to talk about my obsessive sleep, I don't think we could fill a show on that.
I wanted to ask, so Intellective wrote like Metatron's cube, multiple channels, symphonic resonance, and I think he was asking that about the different entities. And yeah, I think when I look at it, it feels very much like that. Like there's very different components to the facets of incarnated bodies and not. So that is a facet, and so they're not necessarily bad. It's just a different.
Metatron's cube is the sacred geometry
Correct.
field.
Uh-huh.
So that if you ever encounter Metatron, technically you're in the field and outside of this box of humanity.
Yeah.
And those are the places to ask for change.
And ask questions.
Yeah.
What else can I learn from this? What would you have, and you're asking your higher self, like, well, what do we come in with this contract for? What what would be most on purpose? What would give me so much joy? So, ask some of those, and what do I need to let fall away? Especially right now during this cosmic time. I just keep saying that to you. And, just, you're not cray. It's coming up, but let it be, and a lot of grace. And then we'll ask more questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exciting that you are there with Monday Trans Group. So it says, everything you both shared today hits home. I'm so glad. Thank you
Good.
for saying that. But I never really thought about entities inside me versus just being around. Mind blown.
That's funny.
Hey, like
There's a lot of weird stuff like that that, you know, I guess I didn't really acknowledge until after I was cleared or something. It was like, oh, holy crap. I feel like I'm one now.
I
And
always,
I have choice, right?
Mhm.
It's not like there's a whole symphony going on in my head.
No, right? And a lot of times, again, it's one of those things that's kind of hidden. It's insidious. It's like you won't know. It's kind of like programming that just runs in the background. So that's the kind of thing. Also, I always say, like, one of the things that I think that has been helped me in this journey is, or just in life when I was a little kid too, I was like, people would always be like, do you believe in aliens? And I'm like, you know what? I don't discredit what I don't understand.
Mhm.
So I just come into everything with an open mind. And if it feels light for you, so something that makes you feel light is probably is true for you. And something that makes you feel heavy, like you're like, oh, that doesn't feel right, then it's not truth for you. So just take everything like that way.
Yeah.
Do we have how's the lounge today? Or is that
No, it's
Tuesday?
next Tuesday.
Yes, it's the second Tuesday. Yay! But we're excited. We've got some really great things planned for that too. So join us. And if you don't know where to find out more about the lounge, you can find that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Jenna, and you want to type it in the chat. It's jenna.com/lounge.
Well.
And I also have an annual for that too. But if you want to just try it out for 14 days, so if you want to join us next week, it's just $7 and there's a $7 trial. And then after those 14 days, then it's 33 a month. So if you do like it, go for it. And if not, then
we'll keep seeing you here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is a free resource, and this is why we do it, because we want it to continue to be something that's, you know, you can come here, you get a breathe, you get with your community, and you know, sometimes it might just set you right on your day. Hey.
And the lounge is mostly like group coaching. I mean, it's like
it's pretty one-on-one right now.
Therapy. You know, where you're like, okay, I have something going on, let's talk about it, or you're trying to create something further in your dreams. That's really what that's the purpose of the lounge, is so that everyone kind of can ask questions verbally and say, here's what's going on.
Hell yeah, I want to put those wings out. We'll get there, y'all. Anita said it's such a great time together.
Yeah,
I mean, the vision is to fly together, right? Like, just create this massive you know, place for, gosh, the world we really want to live in, and this intention and how we want to feel and how we want to create life from. So that's the bigger vision there. So.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have a great day tomorrow, today and tomorrow, and we'll see you on Thursday, same time, same place. Bye. Bye, everyone. See if my heart bomb works on the side. Nope. Sorry, guys.
Well, you can still heart us.
You can
still get the love. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Bye.